stop scrolling for just a moment, because the small 1965 2-cent coin sitting unnoticed in an old drawer, forgotten tin box, or dusty coin album could be far more interesting than most people realize. Many people have handled this coin countless times without giving it a second thought, yet some collectors continue searching for certain examples year after year. And before we go any further, if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind old South African coins, consider subscribing so you do not miss future discoveries that could be hiding in plain sight. At first glance, the 1965 2-cent coin does not look special. It is small. It is simple. It does not shine like gold, and it does not carry the impressive appearance of a large silver crown. To many people, it is simply an old coin from another era, something that may have been tossed into a jar decades ago and forgotten. But that ordinary appearance is exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Because throughout the history of coin collecting, some of the most surprising treasures have come from coins that looked completely ordinary. Imagine opening an old cupboard that has not been touched in years. Perhaps you find an old tobacco tin that belonged to your father or grandfather. Inside are a few coins collected over many decades. Most people would glance at them and move on. Yet experienced collectors know that sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. The 1965 2-cent coin is one of those coins that encourages people to look a little closer. What makes it interesting? Why do collectors continue discussing it? And why do some examples attract far more attention than others? The answers may surprise you. To understand the story, we need to travel back to South Africa in 1965. The country looked very different then. Prices were different. Shops were different. The money people carried every day was different. The 2-cent coin was part of everyday life. People used it for small purchases, received it as change, and rarely thought much about it. Millions of coins passed from hand to hand. Children carried them to local shops. Workers kept them in their pockets. Families stored them in jars at home. Nobody imagined that decades later people would be carefully examining these same coins under magnifying glasses. That is often how collecting works. Time changes everything. A coin that once seemed common can become much harder to find. A coin that everyone ignored can suddenly attract attention. And a coin that survived in exceptional condition can become especially desirable. Now here is where the story becomes more interesting. Not every 1965 2-cent coin is viewed the same way by collectors. Some examples have spent decades in circulation. They show heavy wear. Their details may be faded. Their surfaces may have scratches or damage. Others somehow escaped the harsh journey of circulation. These coins remain protected. Perhaps they sat untouched in collections. Perhaps they were stored safely by families. Perhaps they were forgotten in envelopes and never spent. As a result, they can look dramatically different from heavily worn examples. And that difference can have a major impact on collector interest. Keep listening, because later we will discuss a detail that many people overlook when checking their coins, and it can make a remarkable difference. For now, imagine two people each holding a 1965 2-cent coin. One person assumes it is worth very little. The other decides to examine it carefully. The second person notices sharper details, cleaner surfaces, less wear, better preservation. Suddenly, the coin begins to look more interesting. This is one of the first lessons experienced collectors learn. Condition matters. Sometimes it matters a great deal. Many beginners focus only on the date. They see 1965 and immediately wonder about value. But seasoned collectors often look beyond the date. They study the surfaces. They inspect the lettering. They examine every detail. Because two coins with the same year can produce very different reactions from collectors. And that brings us to our first curiosity gap. What is it that collectors are actually looking for when they inspect a 1965 2-cent coin? The answer is not always obvious. Many people think rarity is simply about age. But age alone rarely tells the full story. A coin can be old and still remain common. Meanwhile, another coin from the same year can become difficult to locate in exceptional condition. That difference changes everything. Some are lost. Some are damaged. Some are discarded. Others suffer decades of wear. Every year that passes naturally reduces the number of attractive surviving examples. That process slowly changes the collecting landscape. Collectors understand this. That is why they often search patiently for the best examples they can find. Now imagine attending a coin gathering. Collectors sit around tables examining coins. Most pieces receive a quick glance. Then suddenly someone notices a particularly attractive example. People begin paying closer attention. Questions are asked. Magnifying glasses appear. The atmosphere changes. Why? Because exceptional coins have a way of standing out, even among other coins of the same date. This is where many newcomers become surprised. They discover that a coin story is not determined solely by the year printed on it. Its condition, preservation, appearance, and collector demand all play important roles. And demand is another fascinating piece of the puzzle. Collectors are often driven by the desire to complete sets. Suppose someone is assembling a collection covering a specific period of South African coinage. They may need a 1965 2-cent coin to fill an important space. Without it, the collection feels incomplete. That desire creates demand. And where demand exists, interest often follows. Now you might be wondering whether ordinary examples of the coin are worth examining. The answer is absolutely yes, because many people discover that they never actually looked closely at their coins before. They assumed they knew what they had. Then they inspected them carefully. Sometimes they noticed details they had completely overlooked. And this leads to another important point. Some collectors believe that the thrill of coin collecting is not simply about money. It is about discovery. Every coin tells a story. Every coin traveled through history. Every scratch, mark, and detail represents a journey. The 1965 2-cent coin is no exception. Think about all the people who may have carried it. Think about the shops where it changed hands. Think about the pockets, purses, cash registers, and collections through which it passed. Suddenly, that little coin becomes more than metal. It becomes a piece of history. And yet there is still another layer to this story. Because occasionally collectors encounter examples that appear noticeably better than average. When that happens, excitement grows. Why? Because high-grade examples become increasingly difficult to locate as time passes. Many coins simply did not survive in pristine condition. The better the condition, the more attention collectors often pay. And later in this story, we will discuss why some collectors become particularly excited when a coin appears almost untouched despite its age. That detail surprises many people. For now, consider how easy it is to overlook value. Not just financial value, historical value, collector value, personal value. These coins become links to the past. Even when they are not worth enormous amounts, they can carry significance that cannot easily be measured. But sometimes collector interest adds another dimension. Suddenly, a forgotten coin becomes worthy of closer examination. And that is exactly what has happened with many older South African coins. The 1965 2-cent coin continues attracting attention because it sits at the intersection of history, nostalgia, and collecting. People remember using coins like this. They remember the era. They remember the shops. They remember the prices. Those memories create emotional connections. And emotions play a bigger role in collecting than many people realize. A collector is not always buying metal. Sometimes they are buying a memory. Sometimes they are buying a connection to childhood. Sometimes they are buying a piece of national history. That emotional element helps explain why older coins remain so fascinating. Now let us talk about values. Not dramatic values. Not sensational headlines. Many circulated examples may only attract modest interest depending on condition and market demand. Some may trade for relatively small amounts. Others in noticeably better condition may attract stronger collector attention. Then there are examples that stand apart. Coins that appear exceptionally well preserved. Coins that become far harder to replace. As condition improves, collector interest often rises as well. This gradual progression is important because value rarely appears out of nowhere. It builds through layers, age, survival, condition, demand, rarity, desirability. Together, these factors create the story collectors see. And we are only beginning. Because one of the most intriguing parts of the 1965 2-cent story involves understanding why two nearly identical coins can generate completely different reactions among collectors. That answer may change the way you look at every old coin in your home. Stop for a moment before you spend another minute scrolling, because there's a chance that a small coin sitting forgotten in a drawer, an old toolbox, a biscuit tin, or even a dusty collection album could be worth more than you imagine. Not every old coin is valuable, of course, but some have surprised collectors over the years, and the 1990 South-Africa 2 Rand coin is one of those pieces that continues to attract attention from people across South Africa. If you enjoy discovering hidden stories behind old coins, consider subscribing, because the coin we're looking at today may be more interesting than it first appears. At first glance, the 1992 Rand coin looks ordinary. Many South Africans have seen one. Some have spent one. Others have stored them away without a second thought. It is not a gold coin. It is not covered in diamonds. It does not immediately scream rarity or wealth. In fact, that is exactly what makes it so fascinating. The greatest surprises in coin collecting often begin with coins that appear completely normal. For many people, old coins bring back memories. Perhaps you remember receiving change at a local shop decades ago. Maybe you remember carrying coins in your pocket during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Perhaps you inherited a small collection from a parent, grandparent, uncle, or friend. Those memories are valuable on their own. But every now and then, nostalgia and value meet in unexpected ways. The 1990 South-Africa 2 Rand coin belongs to an important period in South African history. It represents a time of change, uncertainty, and transition. Coins from such periods often attract attention because collectors enjoy owning pieces connected to historical moments. Yet history alone does not automatically create value. This is where things begin to get interesting. Many people assume that if a coin is old, it must be worth a fortune. Others assume that if a coin is common, it can never become valuable. The truth lies somewhere in between. Age matters. Rarity matters. Condition matters. Demand matters. And sometimes, a tiny detail invisible to an untrained eye can make a dramatic difference. Keep that thought in mind, because later we'll discuss one of the most important details collectors look for when examining a 1992 Rand coin. Imagine opening an old drawer and finding several coins. Most people would simply toss them into a jar and move on with their day. A collector, however, looks differently. A collector asks questions. How many were produced? How many survived? How many remain in excellent condition? Could there be unusual varieties? Could there be minting differences? Could there be collector demand that most people don't know about? Those questions transform an ordinary object into a mystery waiting to be solved. The 1992 Rand coin is a perfect example. Some examples trade for modest amounts. Others attract stronger interest. The difference is not always obvious. That is why experienced collectors examine every detail carefully before deciding whether a coin deserves special attention. Now, if you're already thinking about checking your own collection, don't rush just yet. There is another factor many people overlook, and it may be even more important than age. Condition. Condition can completely change the story of a coin. Imagine two identical 1992 Rand coins. One spent years moving through circulation. It passed through thousands of hands. It rubbed against other coins. It collected scratches. The details became worn. The second coin was carefully stored shortly after it was issued. Its surfaces remain sharp. Its design remains crisp. Its appearance is significantly better. Even though both coins were produced in the same year, collectors may view them very differently. This surprises many beginners. They see two coins with the same date and assume they must be worth the same amount. In reality, condition often separates ordinary examples from premium examples. Some collectors believe that preserving coins properly is one of the most important parts of the hobby. Once damage occurs, it cannot easily be reversed. Scratches, cleaning marks, corrosion, and excessive wear can reduce collector interest. And that leads us to our first major curiosity point. What if a coin has survived for decades in unusually high condition? What if it looks far better than most surviving examples? That possibility alone can change everything. Many years ago, countless coins entered circulation. Most were used. Most became worn. Most experienced the normal journey of everyday money. But a small number escaped that fate. They were saved, stored, forgotten, and rediscovered later. Those coins often tell a different story. Collectors understand this, which is why they carefully search through old collections, inherited boxes, and forgotten albums. Sometimes the most exciting discoveries happen when expectations are low. A person opens a box expecting nothing. Then suddenly, something catches their eye. The date, the condition, the shine, the detail, the possibility. That feeling keeps collectors searching. The 1992 Rand coin may not be the rarest coin ever produced, but continues to hold a place in many collections because of its historical significance and collector appeal. Now let's talk about value. Most circulated examples are not life-changing discoveries. It is important to be realistic. Depending on condition, collector demand, and market interest, many examples may sell for relatively modest amounts. Perhaps a few rand, perhaps more, perhaps less. That may sound disappointing at first, but don't stop listening because the story does not end there. The world of coin collecting is full of layers. Every layer reveals something new. At the basic level, a coin may be worth only its face value. At the next level, it may have collector value. At another level, condition becomes important. Then rarity becomes important. Then demand becomes important. Then special characteristics become important. Each layer narrows the field. Each layer increases interest. And each layer creates opportunities for discoveries. Think about it this way. A coin is not valuable simply because it exists. A coin becomes valuable when enough collectors want it and not enough high-quality examples are available. That balance between supply and demand drives much of the market. Years pass. Coins disappear. Some become damaged. Others are lost. Some are melted. Some are forgotten. As available examples decrease, collector attention can increase. This process takes time, often decades. That is one reason older coins continue attracting interest long after they stop circulating. Now here is something many people never consider. Sometimes the most valuable aspect of a coin is not the coin itself. It is the story attached to it. Collectors love stories. A coin connected to a historical period. A coin preserved for generations. A coin inherited from family. A coin discovered unexpectedly. Stories create emotional value. And emotional value often influences collector behavior. Perhaps you have experienced this yourself. Maybe you own an object that is not worth much money, but means a great deal because of the memories attached to it. Coins can work the same way. The 1992 Rand coin reminds many South Africans of a specific era. For some viewers, seeing it again may feel like opening a window into the past. That emotional connection matters. But let's continue deeper, because there is another detail that deserves attention. Mint errors. Now, before we get carried away, genuine mint errors are not common. Many unusual-looking coins turn out to be damaged after leaving the mint. However, authentic minting mistakes can attract strong collector interest. This is why experienced collectors inspect coins carefully. They examine lettering. They examine alignment. They examine surfaces. They examine edges. They look for unusual characteristics that differ from standard examples. In rare situations, unusual production features can create significant interest. And that raises another important question. Could a coin sitting unnoticed in someone's collection possess a characteristic they have never recognized? The answer is yes. It happens. Not every day, not every week, but it happens. Collectors around the world continue discovering unusual pieces because most people never examine coins closely. That possibility keeps the hobby exciting. Even after decades, even after millions of coins have already been studied, there is always another collection, another drawer, another box, another forgotten envelope, another opportunity. Now imagine a person who inherited a small group of coins many years ago. The collection remains untouched. Time passes. Years become decades. One afternoon, they decide to take a closer look. What began as simple curiosity becomes genuine interest. That scenario occurs more often than many people realize. And it reminds us of an important truth. Value is not always obvious. Sometimes value hides in plain sight. As the years move forward, interest in historical South African coins continues among collectors both new and experienced. Some seek specific dates. Some seek exceptional condition. Some seek complete sets. Others simply enjoy preserving pieces of history. The 1992 Rand coin often enters these conversations because it represents a recognizable and meaningful period. But there is another curiosity gap we have not addressed yet. What separates a coin that receives a quick glance from a coin that receives serious collector attention? The answer usually involves a combination of factors rather than a single characteristic. Date, condition, demand, rarity, eye appeal, preservation, historical relevance. When several positive factors appear together, interest can rise substantially. That is why coin collecting is part history, part detective work, and part patience. Patience may be the most important ingredient of all. Many collectors spend years building collections, years learning, years researching, years comparing examples. The rewards rarely arrive overnight. Instead, knowledge accumulates gradually. A collector learns something new, then something else, then another detail. Over time, ordinary coins begin revealing extraordinary stories. The 1992 Rand coin is one such story. Not because every example is rare, not because every example is valuable, but because understanding the coin teaches us how the collecting world works. And once you understand that process, you begin seeing old coins differently. You stop seeing spare change. You start seeing possibilities. Perhaps this is why so many collectors remain passionate well into retirement. Every coin offers a puzzle. Every collection offers a mystery. Every discovery creates excitement. And no one knows exactly what they may find next. As we move toward the end of this story, consider your own experience. Have you checked old drawers recently? Have you examined inherited coins? Have you looked through forgotten containers stored in cupboards, garages, or storage rooms? Many people never do. Life becomes busy. Years pass. Collections remain untouched. Then one day, curiosity returns. That simple moment often begins a fascinating journey. Some discoveries are modest. Some are surprising. A few are remarkable. And all of them start with a closer look. When discussing values, it is important to remain realistic. Most 1992 Rand coins are collected because of history, nostalgia, and numismatic interest rather than extraordinary wealth. Depending on condition and collector demand, values can vary considerably. Some examples may attract only limited interest. Others may attract stronger attention. Exceptional pieces can stand apart from the crowd. That distinction is important because the market rewards quality. Collectors notice quality. Dealers notice quality. Auction participants notice quality. And over time, quality often becomes increasingly difficult to find. That is why knowledgeable collectors pay attention to preservation. They understand that today's ordinary coin may become tomorrow's desirable example if enough high-quality pieces disappear. Now we arrive at the final thought. The real treasure behind the 1990 South Africa 2 Rand coin is not necessarily a spectacular auction result or a dramatic headline. The real treasure is possibility. Possibility that an overlooked coin may deserve a second look. Possibility that a forgotten collection contains something interesting. Possibility that history is sitting quietly in your home, waiting to be rediscovered. For many collectors, that possibility is worth more than any price tag. It transforms a simple hobby into a lifelong adventure. And perhaps that is why old coins continue captivating people decade after decade. They connect us to the past. They preserve memories. They tell stories. And every once in a while, they reward curiosity. So before you dismiss that old 1992 Rand coin as ordinary, take another look. Examine the details. Check the condition. Learn its story. Compare it carefully. You may discover that what seemed insignificant is actually far more interesting than you expected. And if you have old coins tucked away at home, now may be the perfect time to inspect them. You never know what history, nostalgia, or collector interest might be waiting in those forgotten places. Subscribe for more coin discoveries, hidden stories, and fascinating collecting insights. And keep searching because the next interesting find could already be sitting in your own collection. Before you scroll past, take a moment and think about the last time you emptied your pockets, opened an old drawer, or looked through a forgotten coin tin. Because somewhere in South Africa tonight, someone may be holding a 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin without realizing why collectors keep talking about it. And if discovering hidden stories and unusual coins interests you, consider subscribing. Many of the most fascinating treasures are hiding in plain sight, and you never know which coin might surprise you next. At first glance, the 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin does not seem extraordinary. In fact, that is exactly why so many people overlook it. It looks familiar. It feels ordinary. It has passed through countless hands over the years. It may have sat in wallets, cash registers, piggy banks, and kitchen drawers across the country. Most people see a coin worth 5 Rand. But some collectors see something very different. And what they see raises an interesting question. Could an ordinary-looking coin sometimes become far more valuable than its face value? The answer is where this story becomes fascinating. Many years ago, countless South Africans spent these coins without a second thought. They bought groceries, paid for fuel, purchased newspapers, or simply dropped the coins into jars and containers at home. Nobody imagined that years later collectors would begin examining certain examples much more carefully. That is because when collectors evaluate coins, they are not only looking at the date. They are looking at condition. They are looking at preservation. They are looking at rarity. And sometimes they are searching for tiny details that most people never notice. Keep watching, because one particular detail has surprised more than a few collectors over the years. Now imagine opening an old box in the garage. Perhaps it belonged to a parent or grandparent. Inside are photographs, receipts, old documents, and a small collection of coins that nobody has touched for years. For many people, that box represents memories. For collectors, it represents possibilities. And sometimes, those possibilities can be surprisingly valuable. The 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin carries a special significance because it features one of the most recognized figures in South African history. The image immediately creates a sense of connection and nostalgia. Even people who know very little about coin collecting often choose to keep Mandela coins simply because they feel meaningful. That emotional connection matters. Collectors are not always buying metal. Sometimes they are buying history. Sometimes they are buying memories. Sometimes they are buying a story. And stories can become powerful. Now here is where things become more interesting. Not every 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin is valuable. In fact, many examples are worth only their face value. But depending on condition, preservation, collector demand, and in rare situations, unusual characteristics, some examples can attract much greater attention. That difference is important, because one coin may look almost identical to another, yet collectors may value them very differently. Think about that for a moment. Two coins, same year, same design, yet one is ignored while another becomes highly desirable. Why? The answer is something many people never expect. Condition can change everything. A coin that has spent years circulating through shops and businesses may show scratches, marks, and wear. Another coin from the same year may have been carefully stored from the beginning. Collectors notice those differences immediately. And when demand increases, better preserved examples often attract stronger interest. Some collectors believe the real excitement begins when a coin combines historical appeal with exceptional preservation. That combination does not appear every day. And in a moment, I will explain why certain collectors become surprisingly competitive when such examples appear. But first, consider how many coins disappear from view every year. Some are lost. Some are damaged. Some are forgotten. Others sit quietly in collections for decades. As time passes, finding outstanding examples can become more difficult. That scarcity creates curiosity, and curiosity creates demand. This is one of the reasons people who never considered themselves collectors suddenly become interested in old coins. Because every collection begins with a simple question. What if I have something special? The remarkable thing is that many valuable discoveries do not happen in professional auction rooms. They happen at home, inside old drawers, inside storage boxes, inside forgotten containers that have not been opened in years. That possibility keeps people searching. And it brings us to another detail many viewers may not know. Some collectors spend considerable time examining small differences that most people completely miss. Tiny variations, minor production characteristics, subtle details. To an ordinary person, they may appear insignificant. To a dedicated collector, they can become extremely important. This is where patience becomes valuable. Because the more carefully you look, the more you begin to understand why certain coins attract attention while others do not. And there is still one more factor that often surprises people. Market interest changes. A coin ignored today may become more desirable tomorrow. A coin that receives little attention for years can suddenly become the focus of renewed collector interest. That is why experienced collectors rarely rush. They observe, they learn, they wait, and occasionally, their patience is rewarded. Over the years, stories have circulated about coins discovered in ordinary places and later examined by specialists who recognized qualities the owners never noticed. Imagine that feeling. You believe you are holding an ordinary coin. Then someone explains that it may deserve a much closer look. Moments like that are what make coin collecting so fascinating. Not because every coin is valuable, but because every coin carries a possibility. And sometimes that possibility is enough to change how people view the contents of their own homes. As we continue, there is another reason the 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin remains a topic of discussion among collectors. Its connection to history gives it a level of emotional importance that many modern objects simply do not possess. People remember where they were during important moments. They remember the atmosphere of the time. They remember the stories shared by family members. Coins often become small time capsules carrying those memories forward. That emotional value cannot always be measured, yet it often influences collector interest. And when emotional appeal combines with rarity, preservation, and demand, surprising things can happen. The next detail may be the most important of all. Many people assume valuable coins must look old, but that is not always true. A coin does not need to be hundreds of years old to attract attention. Sometimes a relatively modern coin can generate significant interest simply because collectors are searching for the best examples available. That reality catches many people off guard, and it explains why certain modern coins continue to be examined years after they were issued. So if you happen to have a 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin nearby, this might be the perfect time to take a closer look. Not because every coin is rare, not because every coin is valuable, but because remarkable discoveries often begin with curiosity. And curiosity costs nothing. By now, you may be wondering whether there is a hidden secret that instantly transforms a coin into a fortune. The truth is usually more complicated. Value is influenced by many factors: condition, demand, availability, collector interest, historical significance, and sometimes unique characteristics that specialists find noteworthy. That combination determines how strongly collectors respond. What makes the story exciting is that the outcome is never completely predictable, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps people searching through old collections year after year. Because somewhere, another forgotten coin is waiting to be rediscovered. Before you spend another old coin, check your pocket carefully. That 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin you barely notice could be hiding a story that most people never hear. And if you enjoy discovering hidden treasures and valuable coins, consider subscribing because some of the most interesting finds are closer than you think. At first glance, the 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin looks completely ordinary. Thousands of people have carried one, spent one, or tossed one into a drawer without giving it a second thought. But experienced collectors often look beyond the face value. They know that sometimes an ordinary coin can become surprisingly desirable. What makes this coin so interesting is not just the image of Nelson Mandela. It is the possibility that certain examples, depending on condition and collector demand, may attract much more attention than people expect. A worn coin that circulated for years might be worth only its face value, while a carefully preserved example could be worth far more to the right collector. Now here is the surprising part. Many valuable coin discoveries are not made by experts. They are made by ordinary people cleaning out old cupboards, opening forgotten boxes, or sorting through family collections. Some collectors believe that hidden treasures are still sitting in homes across South Africa, waiting to be found. And there is another detail many people overlook. Tiny differences in quality, preservation, and rarity can sometimes make a significant difference in collector interest. That is why serious collectors examine coins so carefully. Could your 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin be one of the examples collectors are searching for? The only way to know is to take a closer look. You might discover that an ordinary coin carries more value than you ever imagined. So check your old coins today, keep an eye out for special pieces, and subscribe for more fascinating coin discoveries. Your next hidden treasure could already be in your home. Stop scrolling for a moment. That 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin sitting in your drawer could be more interesting than you think. If you enjoy discovering hidden treasures, consider subscribing for more coin stories. Most people see this coin as ordinary pocket change, but some collectors look much closer. Depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand, certain examples can attract surprising attention. Many valuable discoveries have started in old jars, forgotten boxes, and family collections. Before spending your old coins, take a careful look. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Your next fascinating discovery could already be at home. Before you spend that old 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin, take a closer look. What seems like ordinary change could be hiding a story that many people never discover. And if you enjoy learning about rare and valuable coins, consider subscribing for more fascinating finds. At first glance, the 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin looks like any other coin that has passed through countless hands across South Africa. Many people have spent it without a second thought. Others have tossed it into jars, drawers, and forgotten collections. But some collectors believe that certain examples deserve a much closer inspection. The reason is simple. In the world of coin collecting, value is not always determined by face value alone. Depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand, some coins can become far more desirable than most people expect. A coin that appears ordinary today may attract significant interest from collectors searching for well-preserved examples. What makes this exciting is that many discoveries happen at home. Old boxes, family collections, and forgotten coin jars have surprised people before. So before you spend your 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin, take a moment to examine it carefully. You never know what you might find. And remember to subscribe for more hidden coin stories and collecting discoveries. What if the 2008 Mandela 5 Rand coin in your home is worth more than you think? Most people spend these coins without looking twice, but collectors often see something different. They look for condition, rarity, and special details that others miss. Over the years, many old coins have been forgotten in drawers, cupboards, and family collections. Some later turned out to be far more interesting than their owners imagined. That is why collectors never ignore a coin too quickly. Take a closer look at your old coins today. You might discover a hidden treasure sitting right in front of you.